Welcome to this episode of Leading Your Agency. And I'm very happy about this episode because I have a former client and very inspiring founder and CEO with me today, Gabriel, who is the CEO of Plus Render. Welcome, Gabriel.
Hi Ben, how are you doing?
I'm very well. So, yeah, excited episode because I really like what you do at Plus Render, and we're going to talk about what that is in this session today. But before we get started into talking business, I'd love to understand what's your story, what led up to you founding Plus Render. Like, what's your path leading up to this very cool agency?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I started selling using drop shipping business model. I created several e-commerce businesses. Drop shipping basically consists on not having to produce the product, nor storing it.
Yeah,
So I was basically just focusing on the sales aspect, and the shipment automatically got shipped to the client without me having to manufacture nor send it. So this is called drop shipping. And after COVID hit, factories stopped, shipping stopped, so business stopped. Um, I decided to follow the same business model but called drop servicing, where basically you are an expert within a service and you find a team to do the heavy lifting, do in our case the 3D modeling, 3D rendering, and it's us at the management area where we manage our team, we project manage them, and we do the main focus on selling basically and getting to bigger clients, expanding our marketing outreach, and doing this overall project management design. So adding a lot of value there as well.
very cool. And so, born out of necessity to a certain degree, like many good companies are. So maybe if you had to explain to the audience who don't know Plus Render yet, in a nutshell, what do you do? Who are your clients? What are the products slash services that you offer for your clients,
Yeah.
and why do they work with you?
So we're an architectural visualization studio. We focus on the visualization of architectural projects. So it's called 3D rendering technology, where we basically showcase a project, which can be a house, a logistics property, the new port in your town. So something that is unbuilt, we basically visualize it on a photorealistic way to showcase how the product is going to be, and allowing potential developers or construction companies to pre-sell their properties before it's being built.
Really cool. So it's a sales tool for your clients mainly, I would imagine,
Yeah, it's a
right?
market tool, sales tool. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. And what's your company size at the moment, and what markets are you servicing?
Yeah. So we are around 20 employees, from 20 to 30. Our typical clients are real estate commercial companies. So this is a company that connects buyers with sellers. And for example, CBRE, commercial real estate company, that they create a project on a non-existing, let's say it's a grassland. They understand what type of project fits here for what type of investors, and they would design a project within their architects, also create a business model around this property, and they would hire us to market, to visualize their project.
Very cool. And so before we maybe dive into strategy, because I know that you've spent a lot of time in really developing your strategy and being specific about which markets to enter and how you do that. But um, can you explain a bit for the people out there? I mean, 3D rendering, I think everybody has a rough understanding of what that is. But you offer different services as well, right? In the classical offering to your clients. So it's not only images, right? But there's also interactive components. So maybe you can, explain a bit like what different offerings do you have with regards to 3D architectural renderings?
Yeah, exactly. So the real estate industry, independently of the, if we're talking about residential or logistics or hospitality, for example, most of the sellers, they are selling a property just with PDF listing brochure. So it's a 2D document with some nice images of how it's going to look, and some like project highlights, location. This has been used in the industry in the past 2 decades, 3 decades, since the start of the internet. And nowadays there is this, we have developed Plus Reality, which is an interactive software that allows us to create 360 view of the project from multiple different areas. We fly a drone from the sky and we see the whole neighborhood, not just the neighborhood, but even the town. We see how close we are from the nearest lake, from the nearest highway, from the nearest supermarket, whatever. And we also create a tour from the inside of the different apartments, so that you have a much better understanding of the space. How big is the living room compared to the kitchen? How is the entrance to the house? This would also allow you to make design readjustments, because you get a much better understanding of this house, which still hasn't been built, and allows you to even suggest new redesign to the builder, to the constructor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Very cool. So it's being more interactive and engaging with the content. So it's both about experiencing it, but then also about just putting more information into the visual, right? Where it's not only just a picture, but you can actually extract information from it, right? In terms of
Exactly.
what does it feel like, what's the actual location like, etc., etc.
Exactly. Yeah, lots of
Okay.
information. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've seen your products. If everyone who has not, check out plusrender.com, I think, right?
Yeah. Plus,
It's really really fantastic, fantastic stuff. Cool. So strategy, and I mean, I think this is very very interesting for other agency owner, service based business people. So you've been really also we have been together earlier this year working on strategy. So the question of what markets do we enter, what do we focus on in business,
yeah.
what are our channels that we use. And now I know that there's much more to it than we worked on together. But what is your approach to strategy? You and your partner, how do you make sure you make the right, or at least the best available choice at any given time with regards to where do we move next with the company? What's your approach to that?
So first of all, we try to base our strategy decisions in facts and not in desires. Sometimes I've seen other business owners, they have such a strong feeling to go in one direction, but maybe the market is not ready yet, or there is not a true demand. So I think it's really important to identify who is your target customer, not the target customer that you would like to have, but the one that is actually bringing money,
Yeah.
and see how you can add additional value to him in ways that still don't exist. So basically, innovate and differentiate from your potential competitors, so that that client not only sticks with you, but he also starts talking about you, and yeah, you expand your network with him.
Yeah. And talking about competition, to what extent does competition play a role for you when you make these decisions?
um, Actually, very little, since we are innovating within our sector, and there are very few visualization studios um, doing some, providing a similar service. So there is such a high, the real estate market is just so big that we don't take our decisions based on our competitors, but on how we can communicate these innovative ideas to the people so that they understand our technology. That's more
Yeah.
of this struggle.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that. There's a book, or there's a million books from Grant Cardone, who's this like US-based sales guru type of guy, Now think about what you want, but he, in one of his books, he says something around the lines of, if you're, let's say, below 100 million in revenue, your problem is not competition, your problem is opacity, which means the
Exactly.
market just doesn't know you exist, right? It's not
Exactly.
it's not that they choose between you and 15 other people. It's just like they don't even know that you're there, right? So your task as the founder or CEO is to break through that opacity and develop new channels. And now channel is a good lead into the second part of this question. So um, I know that you've been very deliberate about adding and trying new channels, from partnering with architectural firms over, all the online channels that you use. What have you seen to be most successful in, let's say, the past year or two with regards to customer acquisition channels? Is that word of mouth, which I could imagine is a big one for you, or is this, account-based selling for these larger enterprise clients that you mentioned? What are were the most successful channels for you that you tried out and said, okay, that works?
Um, for sure, it has been SEO. SEO is bringing us like, yeah, maybe like 33% of our revenue nowadays, and it's only growing. Obviously, you need few months, years with proper digital marketing agency to do this work. And yeah, it has been just an amazing increase, especially in the past 5 months. Yeah, we're getting leads almost every 2 days or so, and like qualified leads that they do a specific search of our service. So SEO is a big one. We have recently are trying with LinkedIn ads. It's also very interesting because some of our clients, they have, but some of our leads, they are still not clients. They have seen our projects, and maybe it's their competitor that is selling their properties using
Mm-hmm.
this technology, or yeah, it's usually that. And they have seen our product in the market, but they don't know who has designed this. Sometimes
Opacity again, right?
we fit our logo sometimes in the virtual tours, but most clients, they don't like it. So
Yeah.
and thanks to LinkedIn ads, we are having much more visibility in the industry with a specific niche that we're targeting now. And yeah, it's also it's working. We still have to run it, yeah, more time obviously, but so far so good.
Nice. Very cool.
um
And I mean, the beauty about SEO is that it builds up over time, right? As you say, it's a long-term thing with both sides of the medal, right? Where obviously it takes longer to build, but then also it's more sustainable, right? Or it is not more sustainable, but it's sustainable, right? It's not like a faucet where, my other colleague said it the other day, like Google Ads are like a faucet, or LinkedIn ads, right? Once you turn it off, it's off, right?
exactly.
Where SEO, is more substantial in terms of growth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
more mid to long term, so you don't have short term results. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's a long term effort. So good to have a good partner by your side,
Yeah.
to do that. Very cool. So now, based on these strategic discussions that you had, and I know that you're always trying to innovate and see what else you could be doing. I know that you've been venturing into the Web3 and Metaverse space. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about what's the idea behind that? Why do you think it's a good fit, and how's that currently going for you?
Yeah. Um, so basically, the idea of the metaverse, how we see it and how some of our clients are explaining it, is that it's not here to replace reality. We're not going to go to a virtual cinema in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, maybe in 20 years. But it's in or a concert, it's not here to replace reality. It's to create an alternative experience that adds value, obviously, and to the user, and gives a different approach, a different way of communicating, a different way of creating a community. It's basically like bringing somehow like your customers or your potential customers together and having them connect, share, and this brings you like more brand awareness and more customer fidelity. So that's also an interesting way of seeing it. Um, the thing of the metaverse is that it's very correlated to the crypto market. We saw obviously a big boom when Facebook changed its name to Meta. Um, it was also close to the time where the crypto market was at its highest, and this brought a lot of money into the metaverse industry, and lots of projects started to develop. But obviously, it's a very cyclical market, and in the past 2 years or so, it has been a bearish market. There are several metaverse projects that have been undergoing in the back end, and waiting for the next bull run, which might be in 2024. So that's also a thing to consider, that it's correlated to the crypto market. And also another interesting thing to consider is that um, the software technology is there. So the video game industry has an extremely powerful software technology that allows you to create, amazing video games and experiences. But the hardware technology still needs some
Hmm.
development. So hardware is what makes it immersive, having like proper goggles, or a haptic suit, that you can even run like in a sort of hamster ball, or I don't know, there's different ideas out there. That's what makes it special, and take it to the next level. So the hardware still needs a few years to develop, which is what actually Meta is really investing on.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And what is your what's your business angle on your offering there? So it's also architecture. So you basically, I mean, you're doing what you do. It's just a different just a different setup, different framework, right? But it's the same
Exactly.
work. You're designing something that doesn't exist yet, right?
Exactly. The team is the same. So our architectural team, we have obviously different requirements from the client. Right now, we're, for example, building an NFT gallery, which is a complete different experience to watching art on a museum. It's much more interactive, and there's also like gamification around this area. Um, so our approach is basically bringing our design skills, our software skills, and creating beautiful, engaging, super creative spaces that, they like break the physics laws and allows us to get our wildest ideas that we cannot build on a normal architectural project. We bring all that creativity there, and we are creating some beautiful spaces, and everything, and NFTs, and
Yeah, that sounds really fantastic. And then also in our discussion before the call, you mentioned that there's another product you're currently launching, or another service offering called White Rock,
yeah.
which is meant to further enhance not only the visual and sales side of the work that you do, but also really the hands-on decision making that architects, developers make while creating, yeah, buildings, houses, developments. So can you explain a bit more what's the outset of White Rock?
Yeah. So we're from Spain, and we have a strong background in the Mediterranean coast. My brother, my main partner, especially, he's really into the Mediterranean architectural style, which you can imagine like it's a combination of like Ibiza modern style with like traditional Santorini type of white houses by the port, and we are combining this Mediterranean style, which is highly demanded worldwide, with the our expertise in technology, and we are basically creating a walkthrough experience that allows the client to literally walk through his future house, understand how big is the living room, what are the exact views he will get. Um, it just gives so much information to live the space, and we can then do like quick design adjustments. He can walk into the space again and see how everything has changed. So it's a great tool and a very unique design combined.
Yeah, so it basically allows whoever that is, client, developer, to make decisions based on experience, right? Not just
Exactly.
on assumption. Really cool. Um,
Exactly.
so moving a bit away from the offerings of Plus Render into, and I think it's very interesting. I mean, anybody who has been involved in 3D rendering knows that it can be a pretty complex thing, and also running projects with larger clients can be a pretty complex thing. So that combined with you and your brother always venturing into new streams of business, new products, that requires a bit, quite a bit of self-organization and of just productivity. So I know because you shared it with me a few months ago. I know that you and Alberto have set up a good productivity framework for you, which allows you to really focus on what's important. Would you mind sharing how you do that and how you try to boost productivity in a world that basically would keep you busy 24/7 with Slack messages and everything else?
Exactly.
So what do you do there?
Yeah. So yeah, following your advice and your organization system, we're basically following a Kanban structure where we have our backlog of tasks, our weekly tasks, and the tasks that we want to do today. We organize these three columns also by priority, and we break our day in focus time, in meetings time, in daily meeting time with between my brother and I, between the partners. So basically, how the day starts is we have 2 hours and a half of focus time where we don't open the email or Slack unless we have to use it for this most priority task of the day. Um, After doing this focus time, we have already done the most important task of the day. It's ready, or maybe it needs 2 3 days, no, but we have already made great progress there. I would meet with my partner and we would say, okay, what have you done in this focus time? Um, Once that is completed, we would say, okay, what are you going to do the rest of the day? And we basically keep accountable each other this way, which is super important because since I am my own boss, no, it's just so easy to procrastinate and to skip tasks and just okay, I will do this tomorrow. This way, we keep each other accountable and we are each other's boss. And we have to, say what we have done. It's not you cannot cheat. You cannot. It's not fair, no. So I think that's very important. Trying to keep you accountable for your own tasks.
Yeah. And also, would you say what is more important? Is it the time blocked away in the calendar, or is it the accountability piece, or is it the combination of both that make it work? Because accountability without time to do the work would be difficult, I would imagine, right? But would
Yeah,
you think that just having time blocked away would have the same effect, or would you say the accountability piece is critical?
accountability is also difficult. What we were commenting before, especially if you're alone.
Yeah.
To overcome this, I think it's super important to have like your weekly goals, not only weekly but monthly and ideally trimester goals. And you can put a score on yourself how you have done it that week or have you done it that month. You said you were going to complete these three tasks this week, and no matter what, you have to do that. I think that's the most powerful. Maybe you can find your focus time at 7 p.m. because that day you were off or with meetings and then you went back to work, and that's your most productive time of the day, when everything was a bit more quiet, but in the afternoon instead of in the morning. So I think it's more about the accountability with oneself and or with your partner if you
Yeah.
can than the actual time. Yeah.
And how do you prioritize the tasks? How do you decide which tasks go into that focus time? Which task get priority to be executed in that very valuable time slot? How do you decide which what is most important?
Like keeping your OKRs as we initially indicated together. So basically, understanding your trimester objectives or your monthly objectives, and seeing, okay, which task is going to bring me more money, what is going to make me more productive in order to win more money. Or so always understanding your overall objectives. Without It's very easy to get stuck into your day-to-day tasks and losing your strategy, your main objectives. So it's always important to get back to those, to have them written, and to organize accordingly.
Yeah, very cool. So maybe to circle back to where we started off, because I think it's a very clever and smart approach to service. Uh, if anyone was looking to either start something that you call it drop service, right? The idea of
Yeah.
delivering service without heavy infrastructure. Um, if anyone is looking to either start or convert an existing service model into this model, what would you say are the main components of this? So what would you say is most important there in order to achieve that drop shipping like
Yeah.
feeling of the delivery?
The most important is, well, you have to really add value on a specific service. Like, you need to be an expert there. For example, my brother, the main architect, he is not the best in creating photorealistic images, but he adds a lot of value in terms of design, of getting the best out of that house, of that project, also communicating with the client. So you really need to add value on a specific service, and be an expert on that. That's one thing. The second thing would be to find specific technical experts. So it's so important to find the right people, not only in terms of portfolio, but also in terms of work ethics. And he has to almost be your friend. You're going to communicate with him for a long time, and he needs to be communicative, be accept strong feedback. He has to be compatible basically with the work. So getting and finding like the best professionals, that's key, obviously.
Yeah, and increasingly so. I mean, right, the competition in the fields you're in, but also the labor shortage in any other type of business these days is just getting more and more intense, right? So I think having the skill, which I know you have mastered, and that might be something we can discuss in episode 2 with Gabriel, but having a good process in place, and also a good sense for who would be a good fit for the company is something you're doing really well. But it's, I think, especially in that model, the most critical skill. But to be honest, in any service-based business, as it's people business, right? The people are so critical. So having that under control and having a good approach to that is really half of the game. And the other half, I think, really, as you mentioned, is niching down into something very understandable, of high demand, where you really can add value. I think, if you have these two things, that's a universal recipe for success, regardless of what industry you're in, right? So,
Exactly.
Gabriel, very interesting. How can people? What's the best way to reach you if somebody wants to, learn more about Plus Render, about the service that you do, or
Yeah.
maybe also just exchange about the way you run your agency? What's a good way to reach you?
Yeah, you can reach us at plusrender.com. You will see there different projects, our portfolio and stuff. And yeah, happy to connect in LinkedIn. You'll probably see my name around, Gabriel Esteban. Happy to connect and yeah, discuss further, help you out with anything, any doubts. Yeah, happy to connect.
Very cool. Gabriel, thank you so much for this episode. Very interesting. And I'm honestly and genuinely excited to see where you're taking Plus Render
Thank
next, because I think you're honestly one of the most innovative companies I've worked with. Really impressive what you've built in that short period of time. And thanks for sharing your story today here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about this episode or further last episodes, feel free to reach out here on LinkedIn or at assembly.com. And other than that, have a fantastic day. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.